Hey guys, I'm Ryan from Weekend Warrior Outdoors, and welcome to So You Think You Want to Be an Elk Hunter. It's a little series I've wanted to put together for a long time. In my experience, guys, largely are very intimidated by elk hunting. They haven't grown up around it, and the draw system and hunting in the mountains and public land is just very foreign to them. Or I feel there's also a lot of guys out there that maybe dabbled in elk hunting, maybe lived in the Rocky Mountains and thought about elk hunting, just haven't got into it a whole lot, or have tried it with limited success. Either way, I feel these guys are a little intimidated, think it's just kind of hard to get out here in the mountains and elk hunt. We don't really have that person to really teach them. And so what I want to do with this is just take the average working guy, the normal guy, and show them how they can come out here to the Rocky Mountains and have a great elk hunt, whether it be a one and done kind of deal or something that they want to try to maybe do over and over and over again. Either way, I want to kind of break down this elk hunting for you guys. I've been incredibly fortunate. I've been born and raised in the Rocky Mountains. Got to harvest a ton of elk among other animals. I got to guide for them in northern New Mexico for a handful of years. I love chasing elk, whether it's with a bow, a muzzleloader, or rifle. I really don't care. I just like chasing elk, and I'd love to help you guys come out here and try it on your own. That maybe through this video series I can give you guys the confidence, the tips, the tricks, a little bit of the know-how to maybe come out here and try it on your own. What I've put together here for you guys is kind of a classroom setting, nothing fancy. I don't own a big studio, nothing like that's not sponsored by anyone. It's just me trying to help you guys out. I've got a little 6-part series put together here for you. The first part, what we're going to talk about today, is getting a tag. The reason we're talking about this first, a lot of the draws, getting a tag in the West, a lot of times means you have to apply in the draw cycle, and a lot of times that happens early in the year. Today is January 2nd. A lot of times the draws happen anywhere from the beginning of February through May, depending on the state, and if you don't plan ahead, you're going to miss out on getting your tag. So we're going to talk about that first. Then second, we're going to move into the rules and regulations out west. I just want to talk about the difference of some of this out west rules as opposed to maybe some of the whitetail states. I've been fortunate enough to hunt in a handful of states, and there really is some big differences between private land, whitetail hunting, and out west public land elk hunting. So we're going to go over some of those in part 2. And then part 3, I want to talk about elk movements. I want to talk about what does a typical day look like for an elk? What do they do season to season? This is going to help you identify places to hunt, places to find elk, and ultimately make you more successful. And then the fourth part, we're going to talk about scouting. And we're going to talk about 2 parts, whether it's boots on the ground scouting or whether it's from your computer. There's a lot of tools you can use to help you be prepared before you come out hunting and put yourself in a good position from day one. And then the 5th one I want to talk about is preparing for the hunt. What do you put in your pack? What kind of knives do I take? What does your camp need to look like? What does hunting out in the West, in the mountains on your own, look like? What kind of mountains and physical shape do I need to be in? Do I really have to be in that good of a shape? Those kinds of things we're going to talk about in the preparing thing. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the actual hunt itself. Whether we're going to walk through the seasons, we're going to talk about early season hunting, we're going to talk about hunting during the rut, and we're going to talk about post-rut hunting, and some different tips and tactics that you can apply to each one of those. But for today, for the first part, let's talk about drawing a tag. And some of the most important questions you can answer for yourself when we're talking about drawing a tag is, when do you want to hunt, and what are your expectations? The reason I ask is, if you want to hunt this year and you want to kill a giant elk like you see in the magazines, you're probably going to have to go with an outfitter. I'm not going to lie to you guys, elk hunting is tough, it's physical, it's just hard. So if you're wanting to kill an elk right now, right away, you really probably need to look at going with an outfitter. If you're willing to apply in the draw, maybe come out and buy some over-the-counter tags, give it a few years, knowing that it might take you 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years to finally kill an elk, but part of the learning process is what excites you, then I think a DIY out west hunt is right up your alley. It's what I love to do. But when you're talking guided versus unguided, money's always a factor. A cheap elk hunt, fully guided, is probably $5,000–$6,000. You know, and some of these guys that are killing really big elk, they're getting 15, 20 grand for their hunts. I know everybody's pocketbook is different. I'm sure glad there was guides that could afford that hunt when I was guiding. I know that personally, a lot of times those types of hunts just aren't in the wheelhouse for me, so I tend to go DIY. Good questions to ask yourself before we get out here. Outfitters can allow you to get some premium tags right away this year, sometimes without playing the draw, but you're certainly going to pay for that. You can also gain a ton of knowledge by going with an outfitter, even if it was just one time. You know, how and when to call elk, where to find elk. All those things are valuable tools that you can learn by going with an outfitter, but you're sure going to pay for them. Aside from that, there's some different ways that you can get some tags, okay? There's things called OTC or over-the-counter tags, and what these are tags that you can just go in most often up to the day before the season starts and just buy a tag and go hunt. There's a few states that offer these. The state where I'm from, where I live, Colorado, is probably one of the most well-known states for over-the-counter opportunities. Some things to think about in these over-the-counter tags is they are not good statewide. There's every state out west is divided into units, and these over-the-counter tags are only going to be valid in certain units. And this means a couple of things. Number one, the trophy potential is going to be very low, and the number of hunters is going to be very high. Anybody and everybody can buy these tags. There's usually not a limit. So when hunting these types of tags, expect to see lots of people and less elk. You're going to have to work harder to find your elk. There are some great elk hunting in over-the-counter units. Just be prepared to work hard to find those spots. And when you find them, keep them a secret. You know, you find a good elk spot in an over-the-counter unit, and you tell your buddy, and he tells his brother, and he tells his uncle, and in 3 or 4 years, you've got 100 guys in your spot. So, over-the-counter, great chance to hunt every year. You can buy a tag for generally $500 to $600, and you can hunt every single year, but you're going to have to work for your elk. There's a thing called over-the-counter with a cap. Same idea as the over-the-counter, but they limit the number of tags. So it's going to be generally for a specific unit, first come, first serve, but there's going to be a limit on the number of tags. Again, expect high hunter numbers, maybe not quite as many as an over-the-counter unit, but still high hunter numbers. You're going to have to work hard for these animals. There's opportunity there for sure, but just be prepared. Thing about the over-the-counter with the cap tags, know when they go on sale. Some of them sell out very, very quickly. Oftentimes you have to buy them within the first couple of hours or the first day that they go on sale, or you miss them. Leftover tags. So out west there's a draw system. I know a lot of the whitetail states don't operate like this, but every unit's going to have a quota for the number of elk that the biologist wants to harvest that year, and then hunters apply for those units. After the draw is complete, all the tags are given out. There's always tags that aren't drawn. There's more tags than people that applied for them. They're called leftover tags. They're going to go on sale on a certain date. Every state has their own date, generally mid to late summer, and they're first come, first serve. These tags are always sold out quickly. So look at the state you want to hunt, study those leftover tags, find out what day they go on sale. There's another opportunity to buy a tag. We're going to get into the preference point system, but just something for you guys to consider. Most generally in the West, you're only going to get one elk tag. It's not like you can buy an over-the-counter tag and a leftover tag and draw one in the draw. It just doesn't work like that. For the most part, not completely, but for the most part, one elk tag per state is what you're going to get at the most. Now, there are some situations where you can get a bull tag and a cow tag in the same year in the same state, but we'll save that for another time. Just know that it's not like Texas where you buy a tag and it's good for 100 deer. You come to these west states, you're going to get one tag for one elk, and generally it's going to be valid only in 1 or 2 or a few units. It's not statewide. So just some things to look out for. Okay, the preference point system. Preference point system is pretty simple. Every year that you apply for a tag and don't draw, you're going to get a point. Whoever has the most points gets the tag. It stands to reason the more points it takes to draw a tag, the better the unit is going to be. A couple of things to consider here. How many tags are given out in the unit? And the thing I like about a preference point system, like Colorado has, is it's predictable. you can study stats from previous years and get a very good idea of how many points it's going to take to draw that tag, and you can plan. For instance, one of my very favorite units to hunt takes 6 points as a resident to draw for archery. So I know that every 7 years I'm going to get to hunt in this premium unit. So when I get on that 5-6 point line, I know that I'm getting close and I can start preparing for my hunt. You guys can do the same thing. Bonus point system. Some states have what's called a bonus point. And essentially what this is for every bonus point you get, you have another name, another chance in the draw. Most states will give a handful of tags to the people with the most bonus points and a handful of tags randomly spread out amongst those that apply. The cool thing about a bonus point system is you have an opportunity, potentially, on year 1 to draw a tag. But at the same time, you know eventually, if you keep applying and keep accumulating points, sooner or later you will draw. Because generally they divide the tags, for sake of argument, let's say they divide them 50-50, there's 100 tags in this unit available. 50 of those tags might go to the people with the most points, and 50 of those tags are going to be drawn randomly amongst all of the applicants. That's kind of, in essence, how a bonus point system works. There are some states that are pure lottery. No preference. You have as much chance in year 1 as you do in year 20. I know for a fact right off the top of my head, New Mexico and Idaho are both these types of states. The great thing about these states is it gives someone who might be a little older, who doesn't have 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years to accumulate points, to draw a tag. They have the same opportunity to draw a tag as anybody else. The downside about a state like that is there's also an opportunity that you may never draw. And again, with all of these systems, the better units, the units with less hunters, more elk, bigger elk, are always going to be harder to draw. But even the easier to draw units and the preference and bonus points are still going to be better hunts than the over-the-counter units in general. All right? Couple of things to think about as you're doing this, guys. The state websites have a ton of information on them, a ton of stats. Crawl on those websites. Study things like elk population in the unit that you're looking at hunting. How many tags are given out? Is there going to be a ton of hunters? Are there going to be a few? You can find that out before you ever apply. Most states publish success rates by season and by unit, so you can see what kind of reasonable expectations do you have for killing an elk. Keep in mind, nationwide, elk harvest success hovers around 15%, give or take. So if you find a unit with 25 or 30 or 35% success rate, that's pretty high for elk hunting. Access. How much public land is there? One app that I use, and they're not a sponsor, just purely a product I use, Onix Maps, ONX. I love Onix Maps. You can crawl on there, you can look at the state, you can pull it up, you can go to a specific unit and it'll show you public land, BLM, state, forest, and you can get a really good idea of how much public land is in this unit before you ever apply. Because trust me, nothing is worse than waiting for 3 or 4 or 10 years to draw a tag and finally get to your unit, get there hunting, and realize it has very little public land, and the public land that is there is really hard to access. That's really tough. So do your research ahead of time. And then one other thing, guys, there's a lot of services out there, a lot of magazines that break all this down for you. A new one that just came out is Epic Outdoors. I love this magazine, guys. Jason Carter and Adam Bronson at Epic have always been great guys. I've talked to them both on the phone. Again, they don't sponsor me. I have no affiliation with them other than I use their product. The great thing about this is they're going to break down state by state the units, every single unit, the different seasons, how many points it's going to take to draw, success rates, and most of these places, and this is one of them, you can call and talk to them and say, hey, I'm looking at applying for this unit. I have 10 points. What do you think? Or you can call and ask them, hey, I just drew this unit. Do you have any tips for me? The value of these resources is invaluable, in my opinion. The last thing to consider when you guys are applying for tags is the dates. Keep in mind the elk rut generally runs September 10th through October 10th, let's say. I think absolute prime, the best elk hunting time is September 20th through October 5th. let's just say. End of September, early October, you're going to catch the rut. The elk are going to be bugling. That's when you want to be in the woods. That's when I'm applying for tags. I love to bugle an elk. I don't care if it's a bow, a muzzleloader, or a rifle. I want to hunt during the rut. So when I apply for tags, I'm looking at dates. Early season hunts before that, you're going to look at lots of glassing, spot and stalk type scenarios, sitting over water. Can still be very successful, just a different type of hunt, so know that. And then late season, so when you get end of October and beyond, now you're looking for migration movements, you're hoping for weather. Snow always helps, it pushes the animals down out of the trees. Lots of glassing, spot and stalk kind of hunts. There are some late hunts in the West that are incredible. Some of the biggest elk every year are killed during the late hunt. It's not going to be a bugle hunt. So just know when you're applying and building points what kind of hunt you're looking for, if that makes sense. And also keep in mind, I think all of these states, unless I'm wrong, an elk point is an elk point. So you can change your mind on unit and seasons every single year and you're still going to gain your points. Speaking of seasons, another important thing to keep in mind is, with the exception of Wyoming, I believe, if you draw an archery tag, it's just that. It's an archery tag. Once your archery season is done, so is your tag. If you apply for a rifle tag, there's early seasons, there's late seasons, and everything in between. Your season is your season. If you don't kill an elk during that week or 9 days or 5 days, you're done. It's not like some of these states where you can, whitetail hunt. You can hunt the archery season, and then you can hunt the muzzleloader season, and then the shotgun season, and then the archery season again. It doesn't work like that, except for in Wyoming, where if you draw a rifle tag, you can buy an archery permit and hunt archery and rifle. But for the most part, if you draw a rifle tag, you're going to hunt that season, and that's it. Alright guys, that's kind of a quick and dirty on the draw system. I know it's kind of complicated. Don't be scared by it. The number one rule is apply, apply, apply. You cannot buy preference points. So even if you don't think you're going to be hunting this year or in 5 years, start building those preference points, because in 10 or 15 years you might want them, and you can have some truly incredible hunts for giant elk, and you're not paying a $20,000 access fee because you applied in the draw. You've got your application fees for 10 or 15 years and then a $600 elk tag, and you're going to go on a $20,000 type hunt. So for now guys, I'm Ryan from Weekend Warrior Outdoors. Catch us on episode 2, where we're going to talk about the differences between hunting out east and out west. We'll catch you later.